Welcome to this bonus episode of Muddy York. Today is the first day of the CNE. If you're one of the millions of people who will plan to visit the X, you might want to take the opportunity to check out the oldest building in Toronto. Built in 1794, it's called the Scadding Cabin, and it's located on the exhibition grounds, just west of the Bandshell and next to the large wind turbine. For the next 2 weeks, the cabin will be open to the public, and the York Pioneers will be there to show you around and answer any questions you might have.
Despite being Toronto's oldest building, the Scadding Cabin isn't especially well known, and you probably haven't heard much about it. Let's start with the basics. Who was Scadding? It's actually a bit complicated, but we'll start with John Scadding, the man who built the cabin. We don't know much about his early life, but in 1784, he was managing a large estate in Devon called Wolford when it was purchased by John Grave Simcoe. He and Simcoe seem to have become close, and when Simcoe was appointed Lieutenant Governor of Upper Canada in 1791, Scadding followed him. In 1793, Scadding received a crown grant for all the land south of Danforth between the Don River and Broadview, then known as Mill Street. One of the conditions for the grant was that Scadding had to erect a residence on this land. The first house that he built was destroyed by fire in 1794, so he built a second one to replace it. Located south on Queen Street, then known as Kingston Road, the cabin was made of squared white pine logs with wooden shingles and a stone hearth.
Scadding wouldn't have long to enjoy his new house. In 1796, Simcoe returned to England and Scadding went with him. He asked a neighbor to take care of his property, and the neighbor's son moved into the cabin and began raising his family there. Scadding returned to York in 1818. By this time, he had a wife and 3 sons. The cabin was too small to hold a family of 5, so he built a large farmhouse near the current site of Riverdale Hospital. He sold the land south of Queen Street, including the cabin, to a man named William Smith. Smith built a tannery by the river, and his family would continue to use the cabin for the next 50 years.
At this point, we have to introduce the York Pioneer and Historical Society, better known as the York Pioneers. In 1879, John Smith, son of William, offered the cabin to them as an interesting relic of the past. The York Pioneers decided to disassemble it and transport it to the exhibition grounds where it would be rebuilt for the very first edition of the CNE. It remains a popular attraction, and you can still find it at the X.
At first, it was called the Simcoe Cabin. When he bought the property, William Smith seems to have thought that Scadding's connection to Simcoe meant that Simcoe had built the cabin. In 1901, it would be renamed the Scadding Cabin, but not for John Scadding, but rather his son, Henry. Henry Scadding had been president of the York Pioneers from 1880 to 1898. He was also a local historian who wrote Toronto of Old, one of the first books about Toronto's early history. By this time, people had figured out that the cabin belonged to John Scadding rather than Simcoe, and a poem from 1894 said, "For here we are, a group of pioneers, and still a Scadding stands, and welcomes all for this log cabin 'twas, his father built a century agone."
There have been some necessary changes to the cabin since 1879. A lean-to shed attached to the south wall was removed at some point, the roof has been reshingled, and the cabin was raised onto a stone foundation to reduce dampness. It's currently undergoing a major renovation to repair damage from animals and rot. Some of the logs have been removed and replaced with new ones, but these are marked, and many of the original logs are still there.
Today, the Scadding Cabin contains furniture that originally belonged to John Simcoe, the cradle of the first British boy born in York, spinning wheels, a wood winder, equipment for making bread and butter, a candle mold, and utensils for cooking on an open hearth. If you're looking for some shade during a hot August day at the X, we encourage you to check it out. And if you don't get a chance to see it in person, Google Maps actually has a 360-degree view of the cabin's interior, and we'll post the link online.
So guys, that's the episode. Go check out the CNE, the X. It's a great time and a great thing to do in the summer. And if you don't want to check it out in person, we have a great episode on the CNE. So dig back into our archives wherever you listen to great podcasts, and you can find our episode there. So enjoy, have a great summer. See you guys soon.